our chat crew online.
Thank you.
And we are live, folks. And good morning. Welcome to B Cube Sunday morning. My name is Bob Brown, and we are just excited as heck to see all of you guys here. I worry sometimes when I open it up right at first and not sure that the links went out, but they did. So, just a reminder, as you guys know, we've got books in various stages of work. Scott's Planet. I had some grumpy author in there suggested that I reorder the stories, and so I have sent it off to my co-editor Jared Kavanaugh down in Australia. You know, that makes for some interesting stuff because his accent is so strong, he's virtually can't be understood, and he talks with the speed of sound. Good morning, Liam. And so we got Scott's Planet. I plan on letting it see the light of day very, very shortly. And Gordon Linzer is in it with what, and I'm afraid to ever get him going, give him too much scotch and let him make puns, because his story is named Scotch Planet. Yeah, and it's a long story that has a lot to do with dragonflies. But that said, Scott's Planet is going out. We have the new re-release of Alternative Truths is in editing. Could be out any year now. The Phil and I are redoing our re-releasing our first novel together. Ooh. And it, bless its heart, is The Lost Enforcer. And it's basically running through what is, I consider, final edits before I slap a cover on that puppy. Many of you have asked me over the past 12 years, when am I ever going to release Alternative Leadership? Uh-huh. Are you in that one?
No.
Claire?
No. I'm still writing real dark stuff.
Well, Alternative Leadership. I lost my editor to other projects and life, but she'll come back to read the final thing since she's the one that selected all the stories, except for the one that she said I forced upon her. But I think she's exaggerating. I merely said I liked it. Now, how many times I said it, I don't know. So, that said, that's what's up in BQ Press World. That and Theo and Charles and Cheryl, good morning. Now, you'll notice that there's no Karen G. Anderson here. Mm-hmm. Karen has gone, I can't believe, but she left me for her husband. Her and Tom are now teaming up to do Second Sunday. And she is here. If you see, I don't know if it's top center for everybody. I'll leave it to Phil to tell you about the replacement and our Maya, as I gracefully vanish into the woodwork.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody for showing up this morning. And first off, Clare is our new co-host, and the little interaction we've had, I think she's going to add some interesting spice to our morning show. So Claire, take 30 seconds to introduce yourself.
All right. I'm CL Cagney. The C stands for Claire. I write science fiction. Sometimes I
Mhm.
accidentally write horror because I biology things and then I go, oh, that's objectively horrifying to human sensibilities. But I've got a short story collection called Twice Born, and I used to work in clinical research and neuroscience, and now I write.
Okay. Brenda, 30 seconds, and then we go to our guest for this morning.
Well, I write science fiction, fantasy, and historical fiction, and I'm very creative, really, really annoyingly creative. I could show you my knitting.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, During a recent train trip from Portland to Seattle for Worldcon,
Mhm.
I think Brenda added, what, 3 inches to your baby Afghan?
Yeah, they're not that difficult to do. If you're giving things to babies, there's no point in going crazy.
Yeah. So,
I'm also write nonfiction, and I have one of my first, I guess it's even vaguely academic and literary articles out. We can talk about it someday.
okay. And my
Ah.
you know, to science fiction fantasy congoers, we know her more as a folk singer, but
Mhm.
she's also an award-winning author
Mhm.
and one of my favorite people. So take a few minutes to introduce yourself, Maya.
Oh, wow. Well, I started out writing many moons ago in Analog Magazine and became a member of the Analog Mafia, which is making appearances frequently in Analog. And then I started writing novels, and oddly, my first novel was a fantasy novel, not a science fiction novel. So I kind of split my audience. So since then, I just sort of basically write whatever
Mhm.
story walks through my head in the middle of the night and half wakes me up. So I recently had a my first detective fiction novel with Pegasus Crime called The Antiquities Hunter, which is about
Ooh.
a spunky a spunky little Japanese American slash Russian spy who's about spy detective who's about 5 feet tall and carries a large gun. So that I write magical realism. I write, which I love, which I think is one of my favorite things to write. Kind of absurdist stuff. I've kind of drifted toward horror, and for a while I was a member of the Horror Writers of America. And it's just whatever, like I said, whatever walks through. So I cross genres a lot, which is
Mhm.
kind of as probably everybody here knows, can put you into a really weird place with editors at
Mhm.
publishing houses. So I've done a lot of that, kind of falling between the cracks.
Yay, that's what we do.
Yeah. And the regulars know me. I write as Irene Radford. I edit as Phyllis Irene Radford. I answer to Hey You. And I'm here. I sent Bob the links to my two latest releases. One of them is Frozen in Amber, which is a re-release of a Daw original title.
Mhm.
It's a single book, doesn't hook into a series. It could if I ever get the energy to figure it out. But anyway, and then my newest new release is The Barefoot Sheriff, which is doing very well. Thank you very much.
Oh, yay!
It's Weird West, and
Mhm.
it doesn't get much weirder than this. And the whole book is one giant pun, and it's kind of a contest going in my email for when people figure out the pun. And some of them it's first scene, some of them it's the last scene, somewhere in the middle. So anyway, we're going to talk to Maya about story into song, song into story, and anything else she wants to talk about. And Cheryl Alexander off on the side says the best way is to be flexible and not be classified.
Yep.
Yes.
But editors don't like that. What editors would
Yeah,
like you to do is to be like Georgette Heyer and write just an endless series of
it's
novels that are almost exactly the
exactly.
same.
Yeah.
girl with a very high waistline, Regency England, marry a duke. That's it.
Yeah.
And if you
Yeah.
could just continue to grind that around, and you can find a market of people who are only interested in Regency
Yeah.
romance, and everyone's happy. It's
Yeah.
when you wander around, it becomes very difficult to
Yeah.
market.
It does.
So-
It does. And it raises the issue about, should I have a pen name? And then,
Right.
people
Yeah.
are, no, don't get a pen name. So, it's like, it was very difficult, especially when I started out in science fiction for me. And then the first novel that I had published was a fantasy, was
Mhm.
high fantasy on top of, everything else. It was like,
Mhm.
what are you doing?
Well, then there's that slip between genres, and especially in FNSF, it's close enough in that you could sort of slide along the spectrum.
Mhm.
It's rough when you're going to switch over to like weird Western, or like if you switch over to porn. I think a pen name might be a good idea, just to
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
to
and you
save
get such
school
conflicting-
libraries from pain.
Mhm.
You get such conflicting advice. I know Dean Koontz was talking about how one of the worst things that he ever did, and it was something his agent told him to do early on, was to split between his horror fiction and his techno thriller fiction. And he says he wishes he hadn't done that, because he then had to go back, and when he became really big in horror, and flip, get everything mushed back together again.
Right.
And-
Writing as Dean Koontz underneath the pen name.
Yeah. And that was kind of sweet the way he did it too. But and I wish, there's a part of me that wishes that I had taken a pen name, and I actually have one ready. I have a pen name ready already.
Don't tell us. Don't tell us. I want to steal
I'm
it.
not gonna.
Hey, I have 5 pen names,
Mhm.
all at the behest of Daw Books.
They
Yeah.
were into that.
Yeah, because I wrote, a lot of it was because I wrote faster than they could market
Hmm.
my books. And so they had to keep reinventing me. And also because my books kept reinventing me. But yeah, they're now, almost all of them are at Bookview Cafe, and they're coming out as Irene Radford writing as, and then in little tiny letters,
Mhm.
the pen name. And Maya does my covers.
I was
so
going to
she
say,
knows
I do your covers.
Yeah. Amaya is very, very, very talented in many ways. She's also done covers for me. And you also are a notable lyricist and musician, and I have suckered her into doctoring lyrics. We're going to talk in a little while, okay? Because it is, she has many, many gifts.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm learning how I can now lay out books too. So if you want
Oh my
print
God.
books,
You're
come
never
to-
going to starve.
Yeah. Yeah, so back to our topic. The first one I became aware of was, I heard the song about Harry and the Thing
Mhm.
before I read the short story.
Oh,
And I liked the song, but it kind of puzzled me. And then I read the story, and it totally made sense.
yeah.
So talk a little bit about that process.
Yeah, because I actually used to do a workshop for conventions on that song to story, story to song,
Ooh.
and the nature of things, which is the name of the song and of the novelette that it goes with. And novelette was published in where was that one? Oh, Jim Bain's Universe,
Mhm.
and then anthologized in the best of 2006, I think. So but the story is about this DA who's got a crime he can't solve. And around the time that he's really puzzling with this, they've just moved into a new house, brand new house. He starts seeing weird stuff out of the corner of his eye. His daughter starts complaining that there's something in her closet, or it's under her bed and she can hear it breathing all night. And she wants him to make it go back in the closet so that it won't keep her awake. Weird stuff. He finds his wallet in the freezer, which is one of the lines from the song.
That's the one that jumps out.
Yeah. The thing who puts your wallet in the freezer, yeah. So all these weird stuff, socks are hanging in the ficus and and he's trying to figure it out. And one day he's in the bathroom trying to figure out why something is on top of the etagere that was supposed to be in the front hall. And he realizes there's somebody standing. He whips around, and there's this tall, like lurch kind of character wearing a black, tuxedo and very much the Jeeves type of thing. And he finds out that his house has a a crew. And because it is a new house, the crew is made up of things that came with the house when it was built and things that were imported when he moved in. And the crew is very new. They don't work well together, and Jeeves is having a terrible time keeping their acts in a row. They're supposed to scare your daughter a little bit so that you can come and comfort her and, get her to go to sleep. And, they put your wallet in the freezer because you left it in the wrong place. And there is a method to this madness. The method is that they're supposed to take the thing and move it to the furthest corner of the next room over, and then move it again, and then move it again. And if you don't figure out and put it back where it belongs, it will continue to move through your house until it ends up probably in your attic. Well, this crew is so new that they are just grabbing stuff from the front hall that's, a sock hanging in the ficus tree and running it up to the bathroom, to the topmost part of the house, and putting it up there. And I think my favorite part of both the song and the novelette is when somebody says, well, who is it that, scoots up all the carpets, that makes all the carpets a mess? And they're like, oh, that's your cat. He's an honorary thing. So the things are just, they basically, in my mind, they all look like Marty Feldman. Mm-hmm. With the eyes and wearing black turtleneck sweaters like they were a set crew on a stage production or something. So Harry manages to solve his mystery, his detective mystery, this case, to figure out how this perp did what he did without leaving any evidence, specifically a gun behind. They're trying to figure out where he unloaded the gun. And the way the things work in his house, and the way Jeeves describes what they're supposed to be doing, Harry realizes where the gun has to be. And of course, the song and the story end with a pun about, somebody going, wow, Harry, how did you ever figure that out? And he says, well, they understand the nature of things,
So the combination of the story mm-hmm. and the song, and they're sort of the same thing, but they're two different entities.
But they're two different things, right? Mm-hmm. And the way that worked was, I was suffering from songwriter's block really, really horribly. I hadn't written anything for, I think, years. Not even a parody. I hadn't written anything musically. And I was sitting in the audience at probably Consonance, or I don't know. We were listening to Tony and Vixie sing, and she went into the song about the girl that never was, which is the Alice in Wonderland song, and it was based. And she mentioned it was based on a short story by a friend of hers. And I was sitting there in the audience going, "Oh, I write short stories. I could write a song based on a short story and get myself out of this horrible writer's block." So that's kind of what I did. And I picked that one. I'm not really sure why I picked that one. Maybe it was one I had recently written, or just I thought it was engaging because it ended with a pun, so I had a punchline for the end of the song. But so that's what spurred me to write the song, The Nature of Things, was that it was my way of breaking out of this horrible writer's block. So now every time I get writer's block, I pick a song and think, I'm going to write about
Okay,
this.
now, is the music original, or is it one of your ripoffs?
It's original. I kind of came up with a melody, and Jeff found, the chords that I think it starts on a G, and he said, yeah, it does. And then we kind of just went from there. And it's actually on an album. It's not on one of our albums. It's on one of the albums that Jeff produced for a group that used to be the Duras Sisters. Okay. You remember them? And we became, after I think Deb Bowdoin left the group, we became the Harmony Heifers, and they brought me in as an honorary heifer. And I said, I really shouldn't be honorary, because when I was pregnant with Amanda, I'm sure I weighed like 300 pounds. I must have done. So, because that was their joking thing, was you had to weigh 250 pounds at least in order to be able to member the group.
Yeah, and Amanda is now pushing.
She's pushing 23.
Oh, very good.
Yeah. She's going to be 23 in December.
Then you're over the hump.
And that's your
Yeah.
third. That's your third
That's my
child.
third
And
child.
it seems to me, Amanda isn't that much older than your first grandchild.
That is
Yeah,
embarrassing.
well, my first grandchild he's like, what is he, 8, 9, 8, I think.
Oh God,
Yeah. And then the little one, Anya, is 6.
6.
So
Yeah.
so they're both in school now and all that, which is great. As a matter of fact, we're probably going on the 27th of this month. We're going to be driving to Fresno for his big birthday bash. So,
Okay.
which is great. But Amanda was a twig when we did this album, and it's just called Harmony Heifers,
It's
and
a
you can
lovely
actually
album.
you can get it on. You can't Bandcamp. It's not on Bandcamp yet, which I need to talk to Jeff about because I think it really should be there. But you can get it from on Amazon, and the song "The Nature of Things" is on that album because the heifers sing background on it.
Yeah.
And it's really funny because of all the stuff we do. That's one song that I constantly have people coming up to me going, "Oh, would you please play the Harry song?" Because I really love that song. It's got a great story.
And not to pimp my own books much, but in my Test Non Quare series, Hounding the Moon, Moon in the Mirror, Fairy Moon, Forest Moon Rising, and then Family Bedrock is a spin-off of that. But I feature a number of Maya's filk songs, including "There's a Bimbo on the Cover of My Book."
Yeah.
Oh, that's classic.
Yeah, that was my first introduction to you at an Oricon.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And
We all have those book covers.
Yeah. Also, with those books, you did that scene with from our original song "High Desert" of the caravan of cars driving across the desert together, which is kind of cool because we also have a watercolor painting that Vixie Dockery did of that same scene of here's this desert with the sun, the sunset going down and all these little headlights going across the desert, which oddly, and I Jeff has said I'm not allowed to say this at concerts anymore. That scene always reminds me of the scene in Independence Day where all the Winnebagos are driving across the salt flats. And I get a little misty when I watch that movie and I see all of the Winnebagos driving across the salt flats. That's not supposed to be funny.
The first, I don't know if it was your premiere of the song or just the first time I had heard it in a concert at Baycon many years ago. And I went right from the concert back to my room and my laptop, and I added a scene in one of the test books about crossing the high desert. But instead of being in a car, I had her running and remembering and figuring things out.
Yeah.
But you have
it was Hounding the Moon, right? It was the first one, wasn't it?
Hounding the Moon was the first one. Yeah.
Yeah. They had all that stuff. But yeah, it's really interesting the way that works. I mean, like Vixie has done it where she's taken a story and turned it into a song. I actually have a song that not my song, it's one of Paul Quinn's songs called Sent Away. And it's about a kid who's done something horrible in his tribe, and they basically send him away. Before they send him away, they erase his memory kind of magically. And I thought that's such a cool song. So I asked Paul, can I write a short story using that song as the core material? And he said, "Oh, I guess so." so I better ask him again to make sure he's really cool with that. So,
I love the way things cross-pollinate. The song leads to the fiction, and then the fiction wanders off into song, and of course, then you can get over into the visual thing. The book covers and stuff. It's all. I'm writing a book in which all creativity really is connected to each other. It's like this deep root from which things pop up. In the forest somewhere.
Yeah. I think it was Pam Sargent that said that she thought that there was like the stories that you're writing exist somewhere like on a higher plane or I always think of it as a river of creativity. And you kind of cast your hook into the river and you bring down this story.
Mhm.
and you put it together in whatever level of perfection, which is never enough for any of us,
Mhm.
that you as much as you can.
Mhm.
And I've heard a number of writers express really similar ideas, that there's ideas that are just
Mhm.
there, and you bring them down to earth, and you put them on the page, and hope that you do it right, or at least right enough that people read it and go, yeah, that's it.
And there's a time frame. There's like a period of time or a zeitgeist where everyone is writing about lost kingdoms in the jungle or dystopias in which people ride, unreasonable internal combustion engines across the desert. Uh, there's like a spirit, and people like will spontaneously generate two entire separate Broadway musicals based on the same poem. It's like,
Yeah.
how did you do that? And they had
Yeah.
not talked to each other. They had just
Mhm.
spontaneously done it, and the investors came on, and suddenly someone looked up and said, wait, we're both on Broadway at the same time. What happened? And it was too late to go back.
Yeah, I had a weird thing happen with one of my earlier stories in Analog. It's one called Heroes, which is kind of like, people thought I had a crystal ball that I foresaw this was just before the Berlin Wall came down, where I foresaw that happening or something. And I'm just sort of like, yeah, I just, was writing what I felt. But the story, which has beautiful interior and cover art by Frank Frias. But it was one of those things when I sent it in, Stan Schmidt, the editor at Analog, wrote back to me and he said, this is really weird. This is like the third story I've had about, and there was a tornado in my story. And it was a very specific tornado that was like a main tornado would had two funnels within its bike. And he said, I've had like 3 writers send me stories that have that particular tornado in it.
It was the zeitgeist.
It's like, where did that come from?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It is as if I always blame the muse, and it's as if the muse is making her rounds, and sometimes she just hands several people the same image or idea.
Yeah.
You were asleep. You get this under your pillow, and here, go for it.
Yeah. And if you don't write it, somebody else will.
Absolutely. And she wants to get it out, and so she hands it around a few people. Yeah. And if you are so silly as to sit on it for 4 years, well, that's on you.
That's on you.
Someone, Stephen King will take it and run. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Andrew J. Lucas over on the side column has called it convergent creativity.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But it's also because we're all, reading the same newspapers and following the same news events and, or reading the same books, the same novels, the same, Nebula Awards list. And so we're all swimming in the water of our time and our place, and we can't really get out of it. We are as we are.
Yeah. This is true.
Yeah. Just if you ever wondered how these things coincide, science fiction, fantasy, and folk music tend to be a rather small community. When I mentioned David Gerald to non-readers, they all kind of look, huh? And I said, he wrote The Trouble with Tribbles. Him!
Yeah.
But it seems to me, going back to Bimbo, Jeff Bonhoff, who is Maya's music partner and life partner and whatnot, works in computers, and he was at a conference. I think he said it was in Texas. Sat down to dinner with some clients, and this guy leans over and says, "You're into this folk music stuff, aren't you?" And Jeff said, "Yeah." And he says, "Have you read this book? It's got some really great music in it, and I loved. There's a bimbo on the cover of my book." And he's going, my wife wrote that song. Well, you collaborated with somebody,
just
out of the blue.
Oh yeah.
Totally, someone who totally not connected to the evening's activities, which I appreciate as the author of that book. it's weird how things coincide, and ships passing in the night collide, and then they move off.
Mm-hmm.
Never
Or the
seen-
root coming up, somewhere far away from the main plant, and it's just like, whoa, look at that. We have a piece of, I don't know, whatever the tree is, but here it is. It's coming up somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I decided that I really wanted to have a book with a bimbo on the cover. So when WindyCon, we were guests of honor at WindyCon, and they did a collection of my short stories, my short fiction. So it was going to be titled. I had titled it in Search of Avalon, I think, something like that, something very literary, and I decided instead this was a really great, since Beckett Gladney was going to do the cover for it, this was a really good opportunity to have a bimbo on the cover.
Mm-hmm.
So we included the lyrics to the song in the book, and some other little like interior things, like how Beckett came up with the idea for our album cover, for the album that was out at the time, Schrodinger's Hairball. And so she gave me this absolutely gorgeous bimbo, along with characters from the story. So Jeeves from The Nature of Things is there, and the creepy little critter from The Resident, and just all these different, things. And my daughter Amanda has never forgiven me for that. She said, "Mom, that was such a beautiful collection of your fiction, and it had the light and the middle and the dark. The light was light, twilight, and dark stories in it. And then you put the bimbo on the cover, and it's just like wrong." My daughter has such sensibilities. I get lectured quite frequently.
Yeah.
Why'd you do that?
Maya is a member of the Book Through Cafe along with Brenda and me. And we did a blog series at one point of inappropriate covers. Covers that have absolutely nothing to do with the book.
Oh no.
We should do that again. There's plenty of opportunity,
Oh my gosh,
an encore.
Yeah.
Yeah. But,
especially now, it's like so many books are out. They have the same block lettering on the front. They have the same, you can't quite tell what it is in the background, right?
Right.
It could be horror, it could be romance. It doesn't matter what it is. And there's some script in there somewhere that you can barely read.
Right. And then there's the famous woman walking away cover. The only way you can tell it's historical is if she's in a bustle gown or not.
Yeah. I've got one with the woman running away.
Okay. That really dates. That's good and old,
Yeah. Well, this one was, this was like at the beginning of the craze, where it's like, let's do. And what was really funny about that one is that my heroine is Japanese, Russian American, and they had originally, when I first saw the cover, she had light brown hair, and I'm like, no. At this point in the story, she actually has flaming red hair because she's dyed it to go undercover. But the publisher said, well, no, Ashley, you don't want it to necessarily reflect a scene in the book. I said, yeah, I get that, but she looks Japanese. She looks Asian. So please, can she have her real color of hair? And they're like, oh, okay, that's fine, But I still can't quite figure. I mean, it's very much it's kind of a safe cover, I guess. And I realize I like covers where, and I realize this when when Sea of Stars, which is my most recent release through Bookview Cafe, is a Sea of Stars in Trouble. Can I hold up the cover again?
Yes, you may.
Sea of Stars in Trouble, which is a nice long romp of science fiction, pure hardcore science fiction with a mystery, because I have to cross genres somehow. And it's my latest release through Bookview Cafe. But you can see it's like there's a face on the cover. And I looked back at all of my covers and I realized I always have a face on the cover, except for the Gina Miyoko detective series where she's looking away or she's looking down. And I did that because of the cover of the first novel, which is, she's running away from you. Dear reader, I don't want to have anything to do with you. But that, to me, that's like, a cover thing that I look for, is not necessarily for every cover, but certainly for my stuff. I find that having a face that, that kind of can draw the reader in is like a cool thing.
Yeah. working with DAW for so many years, when they began consulting me about covers, what images I wanted and whatnot.
Ooh, yay.
Which was like, I think it was the fourth. It was Guardian of the Vision, Merlin books. When they just didn't have their cover artist had just gone bye-bye. And they said, what do you want on the cover? That was the first time. And then they actually began consulting me. And they always wanted a person on the cover. And even after the trend had gone to more abstract, they wanted a person on the cover, something the audience can connect to. I just kind of got burned out because they never got the face right.
Oh, yeah.
But you have to remember that what you're really doing with a cover is you're not trying to create the portrait of, Aragorn, son of Arathorn, or whatever. It's okay if they're not accurate, because what you're trying to do is convey the signal to the reader what the book is about. She is wearing a gown with a very high waistline. It's a Regency romance that you don't have to worry about whether she's blonde or not. And from the cover design point of view, as I'm sure Maya would tell you, it's important that if her hair is dark, that the background not be dark as well, because then her head just fades right out into the back. Or if she's, the color becomes important. And so you have to let it go. It's a lot of people can get really picky about like armor or the horse. Why does the horse not have the right kind of stirrups? Because the artist doesn't know anything about medieval.
That would be me. I would be going, why does it?
You can get, and the minutia is not that important because it's a signal. It's a semiotic signal. Yeah. And if the signal is good, let the reader go and complain to them about the stirrups. It's just
okay. Claire, who did the cover of your story collection?
So that was an interesting process, because I worked with an independent designer and I realized that this person is really, really good at making things visually appealing, but they weren't great at knowing what readers' genre expectations were. So I was like, I gave a lot of input about the different stock photos to use, and there's a really funny story about one of the stock photos. But that was a really interesting process because I was trying to convey a lot of vibes for the different stories, and the designer did a great job. But I got, I think, more input than most authors get on their covers for that one.
I posted the cover of my very, very first DAW novel. I think I posted it on the BQ project page. I don't know if it's going to show up over here on the feed, but it does have a bimbo on the cover, and it's very, very of its period, 1980s. It was painted by someone from the school of Frank Frazetta, so but it's definitely not very good in terms of looking like what's described in the novel, but. The artist decided she would look better if she only wore a piece of damp Kleenex. What can you say?
The heck?
Yeah. One thing I noticed at Worldcon just a couple of weeks ago, a bunch of us donated books to Radcon, and asking people just to donate money rather than a set price on the books. And they wanted... the purpose of the donation was to bring Jim Wright as a guest to Radcon.
Ooh, wow.
For those of you who watch B Cubed on the fourth Sunday of the month, it's Jim Wright and David Gerald. But anyway, I donated a copy of Spoonful of Magic, which Maya also designed. I sent her a picture of a cupcake.
I got a big pink cupcake.
Yeah, and it's bright and it's vivid colors and sparkles, and everything else on the shelf was muted and dark and boring for me.
Oh, absolutely.
And, is this a new trend for covers?
You know what it is? It's arty and it's literary. And so if you're trying to do something... particularly if you deal with academics, their favorite book color cover is brown. It is a severe trial, but I don't know what you can do about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I think that, like I said, I think they're safe covers,
Right.
and they don't really often, like, you know, my detective series, it gets somewhat of the flavor of the book. It's like Sam Spade meets Indiana Jones, you know, really. And but it's very, like, almost monotone. It's green, and her outfit is black and gray, and everything is just kind of very muted. And I think I think that's great if I'm doing something. You know, I continued that kind of look when I did the two novelettes in the series. But when I'm doing a science fiction novel, I want the reader to be able to look at it and go, that is a science fiction novel, without reading the text on it or reading the back. And, you know, somebody asked me why did I've got them here, I can hold them up, why I did this cover the way I did. It's because it's set in 1955, first of all. So I wanted it to, and it's also magical realism. So I wanted there to be something about it that, you know, readers could look at it and go, okay, this is not now. And what is that face in the trash can with the sparkles coming out of it, you know? And why is that kid holding a baseball with a cockroach on it? I mean,
I'm going to go and get this painter.
It's just, to me, I did a panel on this at Worldcon. Actually, we did a panel on book covers and what was our strategy with book covers. And I don't know that I have a strategy so much as I know what I'm drawn in by. If I'm looking at, you know, in genres that you know, if I want to read urban fantasy, I look for something that looks like a Christian McGrath cover, like the ones that Shannon McGuire, you know, has. Actually, I have one Christian McGrath cover, which is for a book called Mr. Twilight that I did with Michael Reeves. That I so wish, you know, there had been, you know, money to promote it at the publishers, but there really wasn't. But it was beautiful and very noir and very Christian McGrath. And all of his covers, which I absolutely love, like, say, this is the genre that you're looking at. This is urban fantasy. This is, you know, whatever.
That is absolutely key, because anyone who picks up, you know, a novel and they were looking for urban fantasy and it turns out it's actually, I don't know, a historical novel set in Aztec Mexico, then you are both, everybody's unhappy. You know, the author's unhappy, the reader's unhappy. So you shouldn't do that. You should, you have to signal the right signal.
That was a big issue with the design of the Twiceborn cover, actually, because the first draft I got was a gorgeous cover, but it screamed like fantasy romance. And like, that is not what this is at all. So we had to really get in there on the font and the lighting and everything, because
and that is, and I think that artists particularly, but it would be so much prettier if it was pink, and it's true, but no. Oh, here, I will show you the bibble on the cover of this book. Let me see if I can get it going. This is my first novel from Daw, and you can see she is indeed wearing a piece of damp Kleenex, and that's all. But believe it or not, she had much, much more clothes in the book. There's just nothing to be done.
Of course.
This came out in 1984.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah.
I know I had the experience of getting to also give some ideas for a book cover, which actually surprised the heck out of me, because it was one of the Star Wars novels that Michael and I did together. It was actually The Last Jedi, which was named The Last Jedi before the movie came out and then the novelization. But I was talking to my editor and I said, you know, it would be really nice. She had kind of, I think she asked me, is there a scene in the book that you think is like, you know, kind of a pivotal thing? And they had taken to, you know, faces, which I think is great. And I said, yeah, there's a scene where Jax Paven, our hero, the last Jedi, thinks he's the last Jedi anyway, is standing in this ruined temple, and he has a Sith holocron in one hand and his lightsaber, which is blue-green, in the other. So you have red on one side and this kind of blue-green on the other side. And she said, oh, that sounds kind of cool. And lo and behold, I didn't get to see the cover until somebody, actually a fan, said, oh, I'm at the book convention, the big book convention, and here's your cover. They just announced it. by golly, there he was standing there between this red and this blue. But instead of the temple, they put the mask of Darth Vader kind of looming behind him. It's gorgeous. I love it. So yeah, I was actually kind of cool, thrilled with it. I mean, there's a face, but it actually was something I got to contribute to, which is rare.
Yes.
We don't get that opportunity very often. Even like Lois Miscastro Bujold didn't get that opportunity.
No. She has famously awful covers for the Miles books. But that's the nice thing about Bookview Cafe. You can go over to the cover artist and say, no, I don't think she should have so much neckline. I think that it should be different. And you can force it along.
Yeah, I think it was Catherine Kimbriel had one of her covers, and this, young adolescent girl, and she's half turned, but since it's 3/4 of her body, made the drape of the dress made her look pregnant. I mean, very pregnant. And it's just, borderline between YA and adult, but Kathy doesn't write sex, let alone having a 12-year-old girl pregnant. And the artist who I'd had in a couple of times just was, what? He didn't see it. He did not.
Very guy thing.
They don't, and they often don't get to read the book or even, get any kind of direction about, that's really tight about this is what we want you to do. I know that when my first 3 novels came out, which was the Mary trilogy, I lucked out. I got Daryl Sweet as a cover artist, which I thought that's cool. And he actually, when I got the cover flats, Jim Bain called me and said, did you like them? Did you like the cover flats? And I said, yeah. I said the Mary is a little bit too, human looking in it, but I'm not going to argue with that. That's cool. I think it's a very cool scene. And he said, I did that. I just, thought this was it. And so I gave this direction to Daryl Sweet, and I made him read that portion of the book so he would know exactly what you were doing. And he did that with all 3 of those books, where he would have, Daryl read. Well, Daryl got into the idea of, the first one was a healing scene where she's, holding the crystal in her hand and she's trying to bring her little sidekick back to life, on this desolate beach. And there's glow and all that. So he thought, cool. So he picked out a scene from the second book where it was a healing scene. But the way he did it, it looked like a romance novel. My girls have been out in the woods trekking around and riding horses. And I even describe how they're, like the one who's been riding a horse is wearing like breeches and a jerkin and this sort of thing, right? And a home weave shirt. They're all wearing ball gowns, velvet ball gowns, brightly colored ones, and they're out in this field, and I'm just like, and then there's this beefy guy in the background holding the horse and glaring at them, menacingly. And I thought, okay, I am not going to write a healing scene into that 3rd book. There is not going to be a single one. So I finally got, the novel that had a bimbo kind of. I gave him a real opportunity for a bimbo because of the way I described this one character, and it had a castle and the little dragon, just like in the song, But there was no ball gowns and healing stones and things in it. It was just like, I guess I could have just said, I didn't realize at the time, I was a newbie, and I didn't realize that Jim really wanted my feedback. He had me send him a picture that I drew of my main character. Because he wanted to see what I thought she looked like.
That is very unusual,
Yes, it is.
I don't think in DAW, unless you get well on up there, you get any input on cover at all. They just, they fish up an artist and away we go. And and in the period, sometimes they would just have artists and send them off, and the artist would come into the office with a painting or a drawing or a sketch, and the editor would say, "Oh, that's exactly what we need. A rocket ship against a planet with rings. Sounds great. Paint it." And then they don't even have a novel or a story to go with it. But sooner or later, one will come by and we'll stick that cover on.
Yeah.
Another Daw story. My second Merlin book, Guardian of the Trust, has the green medieval dress, beautifully done. The heroine with the auburn hair, beautifully done. But she's climbing out of a ruined castle, and she's got a staff with a Celtic cross on the top of the filial.
Okay.
Nowhere in the book did she have a staff, let alone one with a Celtic cross on it. My editor called me up in a panic. We're almost at galley proofs at this point. And she says, you need to write that staff into the book.
Right. I personally would question climbing out of a castle holding a very long anything and a long dress as well.
But I mean,
what is she holding on to the rope or the ladder with?
She puts it in her teeth, right?
I personally would drop it down and then have both hands to climb. But what do I know?
Yeah.
So yes, anyway, so that was, that sort of thing happens where the cover defines the book.
Right. Where essentially they have to decide who they need to be nice to, and it may be the artist and not you.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're down to like 10 minutes. So Maya, what are you working on now?
I am working on actually my next release. I'll chat that up first. My next release from Beaufort Cafe is a collaboration with a friend, Anthony Frangioni. And it's called The Time Machine Gene. It is straight ahead science fiction. Okay, maybe not straight ahead, but it's pretty, there's a mystery that spans time and space and the whole thing. But yeah, it's science fiction. And it will be coming out on the 9th of this month.
9th of this month?
9th of this month.
Okay. Wait a minute. That's
like
the day after
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Coming out on Tuesday.
I had
an ebook.
I had the great privilege of doing a final proofread of that book, and I loved it.
Great.
It's one of the best things you've ever written. So
exciting.
Well, thank you much. And actually, Kat Kimbrell really liked it too. She said, "Wow, this should be a movie." So I put that on the cover of the book.
Yeah.
Steven Spielberg, call your office.
Okay, and so Claire, what are you working on?
Yes, I am working on more short stories. I have a couple of novel drafts that I'm deciding what to do with, but more of the kind of, I try to do like between the hard sci-fi and the literary sci-fi, and I often end up accidentally doing sci-fi horror. But if you're a fan of any of my aliens or virtual worlds, there's more on the way.
Okay. Yeah. And Brenda, what are you working on?
Well, I'm writing a long novel, and it's actually almost done. But I reboot American democracy, and I drag live theater from the coffin back up out of the grave. And it's also a sequel to How Like a God, which came out from Tor I think it was in 2000, a long, long time ago. But for a long time, I could not write the book because I couldn't figure out what on earth could we do that we need to reboot American democracy. Well, how about that? Current events help. And suddenly it came to me why we need to fix things and how to fix them. And so then with that, it's science fiction. And so with that engine under the hood, we were able just to get in there and push the gas pedal down, and it's almost done. And the other thing, which I think that they posted the link over here in the chat, it's somewhere. I have an article out, one of the very few vaguely academic articles I've written, and it's called Towards a Taxonomy of Historical Science Fiction. And the idea is there's historical mystery. We all know about, Brother Cadfael and what's his name, detectives in Rome, detectives in Elizabethan England, detectives everywhere. So there's historical mystery. There is, of course, historical romance, guys, Regency romance, Victorian romance, etc. And there's historical fantasy, George R.R. Martin, take a bow. But then, is there historical science fiction? Discuss. So actually, I did discuss. And so I think it's, I think that it can be said that it does exist, but it's not as popular or well known or as much of a bestseller as historical fantasy, you know, which is on TV and, you know, et cetera, and so forth.
Which is kind of what actually Time Machine Gene is really, I mean, that's what I put on it, that it is historical science fiction because there's a time travel element to it.
Yeah. Well, but in theory, all time travel is like this.
That's,
yeah.
Right.
So it was an interesting thing to think about and just sort of to sort out. There's time travel. Steampunk is another fairly identifiable chunk of historical science fiction. The whole point is to make it look Victorian, and we have gears.
Oh, yes. Good old steampunk. I love steampunk.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm the next book I have coming out is the 5th in my cozy mystery series, and it's called 9 Nutcrackers Whistling. And again, Maya did the cover, and it'll be out in December because it is a
Christmas
sort of a holiday themed book,
right?
And I will let you know that I am working on my Sasquatch book, finally working on. And this is one where I sent a proposal to Daw, and it came back by return mail. This is too literary. And basically, it's a retelling of Tarzan in a post-apocalypse setting with Sasquatch instead of gorillas. And I got about 2/3 of the way through and said, no, this is all wrong. This is all wrong. Not a thing right with it. So I went back to the beginning and I'm making corrections, took out one character, added another.
Major renovation.
Yeah. And so I hate to do that mid-book, but this book really needed it. So
you got to do what you got to do.
It's, in like 1 week, it's gone from 25,000 to 32,000 words. And so instead of being a 40,000 word YA novella, it's going to be a full novel with adults.
Good. Sounds good.
Okay, and I see that Bobby is back. So,
hey guys.
Now we've talked it down to 3 minutes, so it's your turn.
Well, you guys may have noticed that I posted this little notice right there.
Yay, current events.
Those of you who visited the White House out on what I call the backside, there is a protest tent that's been up there forever. I've stopped by there when I'm there and gave them a copy of Alternative Truths and all this good stuff. Trump just found out it's there.
Oh, wow.
And he's ordered it torn down. And that probably means Marines with flamethrowers, knowing that two-faced little petty son of a bitch and bastard. But that reminded me that of a point I was talking to my wife the other day, and I said, if I had to have one word to describe Donald Trump, what would it be? And she looked at me like I was crazy, which is not uncommon because maybe I am. And I told her it was petty.
No. Asshole is better.
The man is petty. And that petty little son of a bitch happens to have some of the most evil people in the world whispering in his ear, telling him what he needs to do. And he does it. So that is a reminder that the call is out right now for Alternative Liberties 2. Now, we're not calling it Alternative Liberties 2. I've got something far more petty and pink. Oh, yeah. Do not think for a second, ma'am, that I wouldn't do it. Because I know when I get frog walked into Guantanamo or wherever, my knees will give out. I'll go face down, and the news media will make me look like a withered old man. And I will laugh because I haven't looked withered in 20 years. But the reminder is we have that open call out. Not every time a small press out there says 10 cents a word.
This
Okay.
is true.
Yeah.
And I want you guys to know that every nickel of my Social Security or disabled veterans pension that I use on it will go for a good cause. That's a joke, son. Daughters. So anyway, I am just reminding you and all the other writers out there. I'm sorry. Oh, it was food porn. I was looking at.
I just saw that and I thought we got to get Chaz Brinchley on here to do
Yeah,
that.
we could do that.
Oh, that would be good because I have him. I don't know if he feels that when he wakes up in the morning, that burning sensation. But I have him in my little lending library right next to the children's Bible.
Oh, very good. Well, they were moving house for a while this summer, but I believe now they're finally settling down, finished unpacking. So it is propitious to
And they're settling in. They got a new cat.
Yeah, but at least they've gotten over that bit where the whole thing is boxes all the way.
But you got a new cat?
No,
So
Chaz.
Got a new cat.
What kind of spices you going to use?
We'll ask Chaz.
Yeah, Chaz knows everything. Okay, well, it's been lovely having you, Maya.
Yes.
The hour has gone by so fast.
It's been great to be here. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, I love it.
And welcome, Claire.
Thank you.
Yeah, feel free to jump in and add your opinion somewhere
Thank
along.
you. I've just been having a great time listening to you folks talk. I'm learning some things about complaints I've heard about the cover design process.
We could do an entire panel about covered. In fact, we should rake in an artist and make them dish. That would be nice.
Yeah, and have Maya back.
Yes.
Oh, that would be fun.
Any time.
Yes.
So I've just been kind of scanning the comments, and Thea, one historical SF novel, which I know the title escapes me, involves a young woman physicist who is accidentally transposed into the Manhattan Project during World War II.
Isn't that Trinity Paradox? Is that Trinity Paradox? Kevin Anderson? I think it might be.
Yeah. The article that I wrote is packed with examples, and there's a gajillion more. There's just no way to get them all in. But, just the idea of outlining how we can think about it is an achievement, and then people can slot stories into the categories that would work out.
Yeah, and we had a request for food porn and science fiction.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's everything we can talk about today. But Maya, please do come back sometime.
I would love to. Oh, and I did want to comment. The thing I'm working on right now is a full-length novel that incorporates Harry Ferguson, the DA, and his things into the storyline.
Good.
Oh, good. So we'll.
So anybody who, every time you email me now, just, say, nudge me. Say, are you working on it? Are you working on it?
Okay.
And I'd love to come back.
Okay. Thank you all. I guess we're done.
Thank you, everybody.
That is good. Oh, you guys are done.
Yeah.